of all the superlatives.
Welcome to Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show. I am Kyle Anthony, and welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the betting show for UFC 278 between Kamaru Usman and Leon Edwards. We're going to talk two plays like we always do here. Definitely going to be talking about the main event. And this card, I will actually be in Las Vegas with the Wager Talk family. We're going to be invading Las Vegas at the Westgate for 2 days, starting on the 19th. And I'll be there for 4 nights. The event for Wager Talk is going to be 2 nights, so I'm excited about it. We got a lot of things going on, a lot of events going on out there. There's a golf tournament, there's a basketball 3-point tournament, as well as we're doing some giveaways. And all of us together on Saturday at the Westgate are going to be watching UFC 278 all together. So it's going to be a lot of fun. If you're in the area, if you're in Las Vegas, come check us out. We're doing giveaways, like I said, and it's just going to be a great time out there. I'm excited about it. So if you're out there, come join us. And I just got back from Orlando last week, so it's kind of been a crazy couple days here. And tomorrow I will be going out to MSG Network, filming in their studio, talking UFC 278 as well with them. So a lot of stuff going on here. Besides for that, we got the shit kicked out of us last weekend. A terrible showing overall. I never hide my losses. And, I always say, my slogan is, we talk about our wins, we never hide from our losses, because a lot of cappers do that. When they lose, they don't talk about it, or they just talk about their win, or I don't give a shit. Because you know why? I always win year after year after year after year. So there's going to have to be regression here. Even with this slide that we have had, we're still up 66.75 units on the year. Still a lot of profit here. So we're going to really get things turned around this weekend. I'm excited about it. Got a 5% best bet play. Best bet plays over the last 17 months are 12-5. So listen, we've been making money on these plays. I love when I find a spot where I feel good about, and as well as this 5% max play is a plus money play. So a lot of great stuff going on this weekend. I'm excited about it. So let's dive into UFC 278. We're going to be talking the main event between Kamaru Usman and Leon Edwards. If you look at it right now, you've got Usman. He is minus 410. On the comeback here, you've got Edwards. He is plus 300, plus 310. This line is consistently getting wider and wider. But let's break this all down here. Like we always do, we're going to talk about 3 fights for each fighter, see what we see if one fighter can expose the other fighter, and if the line makes sense to place a wager. So the first person we're going to be talking about here is the current champion, Usman, and 3 fights ago, he fought Gilbert Burns. Now, this was one of those fights. There was some backstory with it. They trained together. Usman was saying he had, dropped, Burns said he had dropped Usman in practice, and, he had these advantages against him in training sessions, but they go out there in that first round, and Gilbert Burns does it. Gilbert Burns lands a big shot early, did drop Usman. This kind of, really looked like, oh wow, is he going to really do this? Is this going to be the guy that's going to go out there and run through him? And Usman wanted no part of the ground game. I mean, there were spots throughout this fight, and pretty much that was kind of the only highlight, to be honest, for Burns in this fight. But, overall throughout it, the big jab. This is something that we're going to talk about throughout all of the fights that Usman has had, is the jab that he just consistently gets better and better and better. And a lot of people, some people say, hey, it's not that great or whatever it is. He has really started to work behind the jab. And you hear a lot of professional fighters talk about how important that is. He is doing it. He has the grappling. He's got the cardio. And he really utilized a lot of that with Burns. I think he showed, he bounced back after a big shot. And after that, it was all Usman landing big shots. I thought his striking really went to the next level. Big pressure, lots of volume. And going into that that second round, Burns was just, there was a point in that second round where Usman was just teeing off on Burns. Even when Burns went to the ground, like I said, Usman wanted no part of that. There was no need for him to go into that, into those situations. Going into the third round, he lands the big shot, drops Burns, gets on top, starts landing ground and pound, gets the finish in the third round via TKO victory So there you have it there. 2 fights ago, he fought Masvidal. This was the second time, the rematch that none of us wanted. But Usman and Masvidal got the rematch. There was hype behind it. And this again showed just how comfortable Usman is standing, how he's able to kind of, again, move around a little bit. This was another spot where I think Masvidal was really thrown off by the fact he was not wrestling. He was expecting wrestling. He talked about it after the first fight. He said, after the second fight, he said, I was expecting wrestling. Because of what happened in that first fight, where he kind of laid on him, it was not that great of a showing for Usman, where he kind of laid on him, kept position, won all the rounds. But there was really no, he couldn't really do much else in that. This is really what I believe that Masvidal, and Masvidal said it, that he was looking for. He was looking for more wrestling, he was looking for more grappling, and that opened up a lot of opportunities for Usman to land. He had that long-rangey jab. He really extends on his shots very, very cleanly, and he was able to kind of mix up some grappling in that first round. He ended up getting a takedown. Masvidal got back up, but he was just giving him different looks. And going into the second round, it was a perfect setup where he landed the massive bomb that knocked out Masvidal. I mean, it's one for the ages. He completely flatlined him in that second round. He goes out there, gets the victory in impressive fashion by second round knockout. So there you have it there. And then most recently, he fought Colby Covington for also a second time here. And this was, again, I keep saying it, but as I was going back and rewatching these fights, you just see Usman getting better and getting better and getting better and getting better on the striking, getting more comfortable. We're not seeing as much grappling, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, but you definitely see he's getting more comfortable, and you definitely saw also that Covington couldn't cut distance. Early in this fight, it was really Usman just really landing big shots. I think it was that second round where he dropped Covington twice. It looked like there was a possibility that he could almost end the fight by strikes, landing big shots, and the power difference was just so different compared to these two guys. Very different, where Usman was fine, taking a shot, because Covington doesn't really have much power. He's a volume guy, he's a cardio guy, he's got wrestling, he's not known for striking. And again, we always talk about this, that when two wrestlers are in the cage, sometimes it nullifies and it turns into a boxing match. And that's kind of what happened here. Covington was trying to get some takedowns, but as this fight was going on, you definitely saw Covington kind of getting into a little bit of a rhythm. Usman was the guy to kind of slow down a little bit, but at that point, I thought he had enough of the rounds going into those later rounds that Usman was able to get the victory there. But again, the jab was perfect. It was landing. It was throwing off Covington, trying to cut that distance. He was not able to. But again, there were some very close rounds in that fight. When we're really looking at just stats, cage, control, all these things, it was very, very close. Tough fight there. I do give it to Usman. I thought it was the correct side there. So there you have it there. Usman wins via decision against Colby Covington. Now, 3 fights ago, Leon Edwards fought RDA, fought Rafael Dos Anjos. This was back in 2019. Now, this is a little bit different here. I'm going to kind of run through these a little bit quicker because they're older, and it's tough to kind of take certain things away. But back in 2019, this was a great showing from Edwards. He was able to going out there, he was controlling positioning, landing the better shots in the clinch, throwing big elbows, good volume. And the one thing he did also too, which does, kind of help towards this fight in Saturday night, was he was shutting down RDA with his takedowns. He was over 5 on takedowns. So it was really a good showing for him. Not a lot to talk about here. He pretty much won every round. RDA couldn't do much, and I thought Edwards looked great in this showing here. He goes out there, wins a decision victory. I said it was about a 4-1 decision victory for Leon Edwards. And then 2 fights ago, he fought Belal Muhammad. And this was one here where, a lot of people kind of talk about that second round. Hey, it was the eye poke. People hated Edwards for that. I mean, the guy has had some pretty bad luck when it comes to, fights falling out, non-bookings, all these crazy things that kind of go on. And, excuse me, early in this fight was Edwards. That first round, Edwards looked great again. He was landing good shots. He ended up rocking Belal with the head kick and then kept pushing forward. Good volume. And you definitely saw that he was outlanding him. You know, Belal couldn't really get in tight. He was able to defend any opportunities where Bilal's looking to clinch or get tighter on him. I thought he looked great in that first round. He looked clean, confident, and going into that second round, we get the eye poke, fight over, no decision. Tough to take something fully away from there again, but if you look back, those are two really good showings against some pretty tough guys, Belal and RDA. And then most recently, he fought Nate Diaz. Now, this is one here, again, we don't need to go over because it was a one-sided fight, and but he really slapped Nate Diaz around. I mean, let's be honest here. I mean, I know a lot of people like to talk about, you know, in the fifth round where, you know, Leon Edwards ended up getting slapped and rocked and, you know, almost, you know, I guess say almost finished, but, you know, probably the only highlight that Nate Diaz had throughout 25 minutes of the fight. Everything else was Leon Edwards landing big shots early in the fight. He almost finished Nate Diaz. I mean, it looked like that first and second round, there's no way this fight is going the distance the way that the volume he was landing, the big shots he was landing. If Nate Diaz wasn't so damn durable, he probably would have finished him. But he goes out there, dominates the fight. As much as people want to talk about that slap, he dominates the fight, beat the crap out of Nate Diaz, goes out there and gets a decision victory. So with that being said, now the first thing here we're going to talk about is definitely going to be Usman's improvements in striking. He has definitely improved. It's something we're seeing, and you're seeing it where basically, you know, fights we just talked about, Masvidal, how comfortable he is. He was able to kind of get Masvidal thinking about the takedowns, nuked him in that second round, putting him away. Also the KO of Burns. He had dropped Burns multiple times, looked good, looked comfortable. That looks really great. And this is all going to Trevor Whitman, where he's been able to change camps, change coaches, be more comfortable in the pocket. Really, you know, you can tell as soon as he went over to work with Trevor, his striking has really changed and really gotten a lot smoother, and that is always credit to Whitman. He is one of the greatest coaches in the game. And sharpening that jab, and again, we've talked about it, sharpening that jab, really setting up his offense, not forcing himself to just lunge in, go for these takedowns, use his cardio. He has really elevated and stepped that up. If you look how he has fought, even the first time where Colby Covington and Usman fought, they both were kind of wildly throwing, and it was more an endurance thing than it was anything else. And you definitely saw in their last fight, which is his most recent fight, you saw that Covington kind of is the same striker. You know, he's kind of the same, you know, 1-2 guy, move, you know, 1-2 guy, and just looking to kind of use that cardio where you see how slick the combinations are and the elevation from Usman, and being able to mix in the striking with his takedowns. But I gotta say, this is definitely going to be the toughest fight that Usman has had in years. And I mean that by, this is the most well-rounded guy that he has faced in a long time. I mean, like I said, like I was just talking about, you know, you had Covington, who, great wrestler, crazy endurance, not that good at striking. You know, you've got Masvidal, no offense to the guy, slight journeyman when you're looking at this here. You know, he's 37 years old now. Last two wins were against Nate Diaz and Ben Askren. I mean, the Ben Askren flying knee seems like ages ago. So you can't, you know, this is a different animal here. Now, Edwards has had limited showings in the cage, but if you take a little bit of what happened with Nate Diaz and how he looked most recently, you know, this is definitely the best all-around, well-rounded fighter that Usman has had to face in a long time. Great striker. He's got good footwork, good movement, great striking. And the other part is his takedown defense. And that is going to be critical going into this fight. And when you're looking at what Usman likes to do, or a strength of his in the grappling, you've got the takedown ability of 70% takedown defense rate for Leon Edwards. That is very high, and it's definitely going to be tested, but it shows that, you know what, he's the younger guy, and he has that ability to try to fend these off, keep it standing, work in space. It really is a perfect opportunity for him to create that space and be comfortable countering off of these takedown defenses. And the other part of this that I think is an interesting part is, you know, Usman's evolving of his style. And that is something that we're definitely seeing. And if you go through a lot of his past fights, we're not seeing, the most recent ones, last few, we're not seeing just the grappling, the heavy grappling, the pushing forward, the wrestling, the top, the controlling from top position and, wearing guys out. That kind of was where he was, his strongest weapons were from that. And now we're seeing a lot less takedown attempts. We're seeing, we're not seeing him blast through these double legs and get these takedowns and control. We're just not seeing any of that anymore. Now, a big part of this that we could maybe put to is the issues that he has had with his knees. I mean, he has had absolute, public conversations and issues where people are talking about how he's obsessed about his knees, how he is just, has had issues with them, and he just seems less explosive. I mean, he just seems less explosive. Now, on the feet, he has improved. But as you talk about explosiveness to push through, get these takedowns, wear guys down, he hasn't had that. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not saying, hey, that's, he's looked terrible. He has not. He has looked great in these spots. But the changing of how he strikes, how he uses his offense, and how he's really, really, really just either falling in love with his striking, or he's maybe not as, doesn't have that overall ability. Remember, he's mid-30s guy too. He's he's not a young guy anymore. I mean, he is absolutely ripped. He's a monster when you look at the guy. So it's not a physical thing from an optical point of view. But if you're talking about just what he does and explosiveness, it's definitely a tick down. Not saying that that's going to be the way, Leon goes out there and gets his victory, but that leaves questions of health, age. Not going to say him getting signed to be the lead cast guy in Black Panther, like that's a bad thing, but there are some things that kind of go, like, make you think a little bit about what's going on with Usman. And also in the clinch here, you've got in the clinch where if Usman's looking to kind of wear down on him, Edwards is great in the clinch. He is really great in the clinch. He's well at framing opponents when they're in tight, using elbows, being crafty, mixing it up in there. He's not a guy that's just position hunting. He's going to be aggressive in those clinch situations. And I think that's somewhere where he could have success also against Usman. Now, also being put into all of this, now all things are pointing to this kind of being more of a stand-up fight. I mean, I more believe that this is a fight that's going to be on the feet, that you're not going to see Usman, pile driving him and looking for these takedowns. I think that Edwards can work in space, and I think that that kind of brings more question marks where this is a striking bout. Edwards absolutely has a better striking. There's no question about that. There's absolutely no question about that. But I think the patience of Usman is going to be critical in this fight. And I think it can't be a position where he's just, moving forward, using his jab, and kind of just, or not using his jab, and standing and swinging and throwing and being aggressive. I think he's going to be very patient. I think he knows that Edwards is a threat on the feet. He's going to really look to kind of chip away and take his time. This is not a fight that I see both these guys swinging heavily. Edwards finally got his title shot. He's going to be absolutely calculated on everything that he does. Usman is getting older. He has to be calculated on everything that he does here. And I think that this patience and the way that I see this fight unfolding is Usman is there's gonna be points where Usman is gonna struggle. And I think that pushes and lengthens this fight, because I definitely believe that Edwards is going to show, again, more complete fighter than we have seen Usman needing to fight. And I think that this line is absurdly wide. I still believe Usman gets this victory, but I think this line is just crazy wide. There would be zero reason for me to ever bet Usman straight. Even if he goes out there and wins, this line is ridiculous. But the way I look at this is, I think that the things I talked about and the kind of the way that I kind of structured it to kind of go over this is the fact that there's ways for Edwards to make it competitive. There's ways for him to keep it competitive, to lengthen this fight, to push into the later rounds. There's been a lot of talk where people have kind of said, as Usman kind of slowed down later, and you've seen it a little bit. You saw it against Covington, but again, Covington is a freak when it comes to cardio, but he started slowing down later in the fight. That's something that Usman knows. I gotta be patient and pick my shots. And I think that's where this goes to the scorecards. I don't see a finish here for either side. I think that Usman goes out there, gets this victory, is patient, mixes in some of these takedowns, mixes in some of the grappling, stands back, uses his jab, peppers away, winning rounds that way. Again, I think Edwards is going to win some rounds. I definitely think he's going to win some rounds, but I think it's going to be Usman. So I have, to get off the big number here, I have Usman via points, -110, a pick'em price here. I love this price. You got a guy who's -400, and you got a path here for him to go out, get this victory on the scorecards. So I do like Kamaru Usman to get this victory via points, -110. And the other fight I'll quickly go over is between Alexander Romanov and Marcin Tybura. You got Romanov -480. You've got Tybura, he's +375 currently. So quickly going over this here. First thing is, Romanov is an animal. He is a massive guy, strong. He's been able to flip opponents over his head, body slam them, I mean suplex them. The guy does what he wants out there. He is a massive human being, and that's kind of been way he's been able to do that. You know, he's got heavy top pressure. He's willing to go in there and have these explosive takedowns, and pretty much when he's able to do that, he can kind of get them to the ground. He's looking to, you know, lay on them. That once he gets you to the ground, it's very hard to get up. He's been able to do that. There's definitely, you know, no doubt that that's going to be his path. That's how he's going to be looking at trying to get this victory. The biggest issue, and I think that you probably have heard this, maybe if not, but I'm pretty sure you have at this point, is Romanov's cardio. You know, he's got a massive issue with cardio, and there's a position here where Tybura can find success, and you've got this issue here with cardio where that first round, he's a big guy. He's going to look for these big takedowns. It takes a lot of energy to do these, and that's the other thing that I think he's been able to do that against lesser opponents. I mean, no offense to the guy, but he has fought some bottom feeders in the heavyweight division. And I think even him doing it in his most recent fight, it's not showing mature moves, or unless it's really the only way you can get these guys down. But I think that, you know, cardio is an absolute issue. He knows it. It's been happening consistently as he pushes through these fights. For him to consistently keep doing this, I don't know if he's going to be able to do that over a certain period of time against Tybura. And there's no doubt once Tybura, if he can, get through that first round, it really increases his opportunity to go out there and get this victory once it gets past that first round. Tybura's been there. He's been in battles. He's been in wars. He's a vet, has faced high-level guys. So I think that's going to be one part of it. The other key part of it is defending the takedowns. And Tybura has an 82% takedown defense rate. So again, Romanov does do different types of takedowns, does have these big suplexes that he does that are very hard to defend because he's so strong. He's able to lift these guys off his feet and get them down. But Tybura is a guy, again, 82% takedown defense rate. He's going to be able to make it difficult in certain spots. And if he keeps getting Romanov working, and trying to do these, that is going to drain that cardio big time. And that's where someone like Tybura can take advantage of it. Also, the fact that Tybura has good jiu-jitsu. It's not like he is some slouch on the ground. There are spots where we've seen him where he doesn't look very good, or he may not be as smooth as he can be. He's taken certain guys down, won certain ways on top position. But he's got the jiu-jitsu, so it's not that if he gets taken down, he's in trouble. That, to me, again, is another layer to showing how this line is just ridiculously wide. And on the feet, if somehow they do make it into that second round, or they're just on the feet, or whatever it is, Tybura has a better striking. He's clearly the better striker. There's not much that I really like Romanov doing. He's kind of a one-shot guy, and then he takes a break, and maybe a 1-2 or a big kick and takes a break, where I think Tybura, if he pushes that pace, forces Romanov to work, forces Romanov to throw strikes, gets out of that first round, this really will be an opportunity for him to go out there and get this victory here. So I like Marcin Tybura as a little bit of a sprinkle here. I think there is a lot that he can do that wear down on Romanov. Romanov has not faced anyone of this caliber. Absolutely, Romanov can go out there and get this victory, but at -480 is ridiculous. So I'm taking Tybura plus 375. That number is great. A little sprinkle on that. I think it's worth it, and I think this fight could be closer than the line indicates there. So those are my plays for UFC 278 this Saturday night. And again, if you're in Vegas, come by the Westgate. The whole crew will be there. We're doing a lot of fun stuff all weekend, and let's see how we do. This is Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show, and I'll see you next time.